Greetings, sending all some warm, positive vibrations. This is Body-Culinary. I hope everyone is doing well. Hope you have your water in a wine glass. So I wanted to give you all a shout out today, and I wanted to come on just to share some changes that I've made to my ever so simple routine when it comes to my hair and skin. As someone that has very, very fine, not dense, cottony, afro textured hair. And as well as I thought I would just check in with an update on acne because that is something that I've experienced a lot of. And it may be a concern for many women, and it can really affect women's esteem. So, if you're interested in a little chit chat, then stay tuned. For those of you that are new to the channel, I'm Body-Culinary, chef, personal trainer, mom, lover of things natural, and on this channel, I share some of my journey of radical self-acceptance of unique features that I popped out onto this 3D plane with. I also share on this channel encouragement to start a garden, to cultivate and restart or reactivate personal movement practice because it is so therapeutic and so many other benefits, as well as I like to encourage what I like to call peaceful consumption. So labels not necessary unless you just want to make the distinction on what you're being served or what you prefer, not necessarily for us to ego trip off of what we're eating. However, I invite you to consider consumption and consumption patterns that are peaceful to your reproductive organs, reproductive to your skin, peaceful to your mood, and also foods that will cultivate and nourish and strengthen your immune system, your longevity, your vitality. So, see, I didn't even mention all the foods there. Usually, that when I line up with my values, that means that for me, what that looks like is whole, fresh, living fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, herbs, and spices, in addition to interacting with these things that I'm going to eat in the garden. So it is natural, it's simple. I do think if you really have the interest, it's a simple, yet naturally luxurious lifestyle that you can implement wherever you are. So that being said, what I wanted to touch in is on anybody with this very fine cottony hair. It's growing in all flat, so and it's still growing. I don't twist it at all. I don't prefer products in my hair. And I keep it really, really simple. I don't twist. I don't buy any products. I found a shampoo some time ago, ran out, never find it again, which is fine with me because I know how to grab things out of the garden, right? And I have this vision for Afronomics and Afroflowernomics. And, you know, for any woman, I really feel that it's really important to have all the things that we need to groom ourselves for the sacred ritual of self-care, to be able to groom ourselves luxuriously with things that we have growing in our yard, our garden, or our windowsill. Plus, we know exactly what's in it. So right now I've been using, as I ran out of those, that one shampoo, that's the only thing I was using, is the aloe, the nopales, the cactus, and the okra. And so I stopped using aloe for a while, and I just started reusing it again. And wow, it feels really, really nice and hydrating and softening. And not putting oil in my hair, I find, because I like to wash and rinse my hair so much, which I'll admit to, because it's very soothing to me. People have different things they do to self-soothe. So running my body and my head and massaging my scalp in water is very calming to me. So the only thing is, if you have very fine cottony hair, it can be very easy to wash away the natural oils. And I also don't want a lot of oil in my hair because I'm out in the sun and I'm very active. All of that oil and dirt can run down from my scalp into my face. And if you've ever had a lot of acne, that can make you very, very anxious, right? I don't know if you can dig it. And I also prefer not to wear makeup. From time to time, I've played and I've experimented. And I've just found, for the most part, I think maybe perhaps intentionally, and also because I retrained my eyes, as I like to say. When I look at a lot of makeup, and it could be I just don't know what I'm doing with it. I just find it looks so unnatural. I played before with a little concealer, just like under my eyes, and and then when you smile, your natural creases, it just looks so pronounced and so artificial. I've tried natural tinted lip balms, and actually, I don't really need it because my body and my skin and my lips stay hydrated from having so much produce. From time to time, if I want to play with a little sheen, I'll do a little cocoa butter, but I find I don't need it. Or I actually like beets on my lips, but then I just really enjoy my natural color. But I will play and experiment. I've fallen in love with my own eyebrows. So I just have this thing where I'm very intentional around rewriting my narrative and cultivating my own aesthetic. And I know for me, that's very intentional because for me, and it's just maybe one woman's experience, I can admit that I have been very affected by all the different things marketed at me, with the smiling faces from the kitty kit box and the dark and lovely box. And at this point in my life, it's not for me I'm not the hair police or the food police. I'm not here to demonize other people's path and their experimentation and their self-expression. Everybody will find their own way. I have my preferences and everybody will find their sweet spot. However, it's been very important to me to not feel the emotional letdown when you take certain things off, right? So I've gone long periods with nothing on, even down to the only thing that I like to play in really for the most part is mascara. But I went through a long time where I took off all my jewelry just for myself and even mascara just to sit with myself. And doing that for so many years, I have actually just retrained my eyes where I actually like the natural aesthetic of my eyebrows, of the shape of my nose, which is big. In my family, we have big Patti LaBelle, very Africoid noses. My skin, even as I become more seasoned in life, and so I'm very protective of my psyche and my calm and my esteem. I'm very, very protective. I think that's an important distinction for women and girls in general, and definitely as an Afro woman, as an Afro flower. I am crystal clear and I'm unapologetic about being very protective of my psyche. And though folks are selling me solutions to insecurities or problems, there is no problem. It's just perhaps many of us, and I think one of the benefits of YouTube is the natural hair community, to be able to peek into each other's kitchens and bathrooms and see what folks are doing and try them on for size, right? That's very helpful. Some of us actually may have not had people sit down with us and show us how to do a double strand twist on our hair, to be patient and see if shea butter works. Or when I was coming up, Nature's Blessing, I used to love some Nature's Blessing natural pomade. When I was switching to things that are natural, to take their time to show us even hygiene, how to clean our sacred reproductive organs. If that's shaving, exfoliating, these are things that we're actually not having conversations. So many young women, your education becomes what's modeled from celebrities or just online, and now YouTube. So I think it's interesting that still a lot of women are not still having conversations, not to make anybody right or wrong, but I think a lot of times, realistically, there are many women that are just so stressed that we're not present and we're moving at such a pace that we may not be making time to have these conversations around hygiene and esteem, or maybe we'll just hand a young person a book. And so I don't know that is enough for us to feel a safe space and to ask questions and not feel stupid. So many of us have arrived into adulthood having found things out after we made some errors in judgment and perhaps have put ourselves, our body temple, our reproductive organs, our hair and our skin in harm's way, may have scarred ourselves. I just saw another piece of research today about BBLs, and it was really interesting. I'll see if I can find it. If I can, I'll list it in the community section on this page. But it was listed as one of the top most dangerous surgeries, right? And they gave some of the ratios of when you go under anesthesia for that long, and they made a big distinction between that and augmenting our sacred breast tissue. But that is actually a dangerous surgery, and I could have sworn they said it was 1 in 3,000 people die, even with very good. Research surgeons. And I thought was really interesting, there are a lot of, I don't know if you want to call it medical doctors, or hopefully it's medical doctors that are doing the procedures, but when they're very new, there's a lot more room for error. And so the standards and, stringent standards may not be as high when people are going overseas, and particularly young women. If you and your homegirl at 17 or 18 are going, or maybe somebody even perhaps older, are going for a surgery and catching a flight, and that's part of the expense, or looking to get it cheap, those may be doctors that they don't have enough experience yet. And so they were, this young woman she did some great research, and she just happened to come up in my feed. She was talking about the process. She was actually breaking down the process of not the silicone being injected initially, but the removal of fatty tissue from one area of the body to put it somewhere else. So if you have the money, then you go for more quality procedure. But she was just breaking down at how this is very dangerous. And one of the distinctions that I remember from the video is that something in the procedure, the vessels, particularly your gluteus, and I always say the gluteus maximus, your buttocks, are very, very important muscle, right? As somebody that's a personal trainer, it's very important to the strength and the health of your upper back and your ability to bend over and stand up, especially into your seasoned years. She made the distinction that the veins, the veins inside the buttock area are so important. If they get clogged with these substances they're putting in, that is absolutely deadly. So when you're a young person, perhaps 17, 18, or maybe perhaps a more seasoned woman, and you're feeling insecure, and you're feeling like with braces or anything else, you really want to transform and upgrade, level up is the term now. And you just, and there's nothing wrong with that. You want to make yourself feel comfortable, or fix a overbite or something in your teeth. You may be going to a doctor, and it's for profit. I think that's something to make a big distinction on, that our health is usually an insecurity and a problem, and somebody's providing a solution with the main goal being for profit. So if I were to look back at my younger self, I would say there's a conflict of interest. I think there's a very, very important distinction. And particularly when we're talking intergenerationally, whether it's a client of mine or a young person, it's not so much, I'm not here to tell grown folks what to do. And actually in the young woman's video, who I will reference later, 2 young women, which is a great teaching example, right? Because you're anxious. 2 young, very chocolate women, deeply melanated women, were talking about surgeries gone wrong. One, a doctor initially refused to do the surgery because he took his time, and he was actually a responsible doctor. And as he was checking her blood pressure and her stats, he found, because of how her body was responding, that she just was not a good candidate, and she was about to go into the surgery. So he said, "I am so sorry, but I don't want to have you die during this procedure." And she was so upset. So this is where I think it was a really good teachable moment. And I'm definitely going to find this video and post it in the community section. Just how the young lady was, and she's a young woman, expressing it. She said, "I need to have this done. I gotta have this done. I want to have this done so bad." She was like, "Why can't I get this done?" That's my concern. The panic, the anxiety, which is why, and it's just one woman's perspective. Anything that I say that does not resonate, please leave it respectfully right here. Just one woman's perspective and observation is that when she's feeling like almost like her life is hinged on a procedure, right? When a time where people feel like, I'm not good. People may beg to differ, but if it's that much anxiety and you have to go and to find these funds, like everything is hinged, like this is going to be life altering when I get this procedure to make me look different. That's of concern. that we cannot sit with ourselves and feel at peace and feel relaxed in our own skin. I say it contributes to mental illness. It contributes to, I think, deeper, insecurities because, and this is just from a seasoned woman's perspective, the conflict of interest, first of all, for profit. Second of all, long term, looking at the possible long term effects of these foreign substances inside your body temple, these plastics and things that the cells cannot recognize. What will be the long term effects if we think that little foods and insulin, these little injections, can affect our cells? Could these things perhaps affect our immune system? And what will they look like with some of these procedures being new? What will they look like and how can they affect our health 15, 20, 30 years down the line? Perhaps an area that, and I can understand why, that many women don't discuss is, and I'm going to say, is menopause, premenopause, post perimenopause. And they are such, I may even do a workshop on it. It's such an intense rites of passage. It is such a shift in your body. Actually, you'll spend another large segment in the rest of your life cycle in that particular mode, right? You have pre-puberty and then puberty and adolescence. Now you can have a childbearing years, and then you're, a mature adult, and then there's menopause. Nobody discusses it. And I take pretty good care of myself, invest heavily in myself and my hair. I'm always thinking longevity and to be pain-free. And even with the best care, I can guarantee you there are some distinctions that women are not talking about. And with some objective information, if we're more informed, perhaps that could slow us down because everybody is going to lay down their human suit. And everybody is going to experience, especially women, experience these different phases. FYI, men experience a version of quote unquote menopause too, which is interesting. So when your head is really focused on the things that you'll be experiencing, that's less time for gender wars because men will have their different things to contend with in their life cycle of health, mental health and physical health. And definitely as women, as carriers of wombs, it is no joke. It is not something to be taken lightly. One, from even ignorance contributing to humans who will not get everything they need to be productive and peaceful and healthy and comfortable in their skin. Potentially, if we don't choose well, we could be likely contributing to cultivating menaces to society because these are human beings that didn't get the lap time and didn't get the resources, didn't get what they needed other than, the baby shower. So there's a lot of things to contend with, and it's a tremendous responsibility. Everybody has their responsibility. Womb carriers, we have a particular responsibility. So we can be mad at men folks, we can be mad at other folks all we want, but that's not serving us. That's not changing, that's not creating a ripple effect in history. Actually, in our anger and maybe being upset at being a woman, we're not being as responsible as we could, and some of us are just naive. So I want to go. No, I went all the way off, but there's just so much that I could say. But the take home is being comfortable in our skin and our psyche and our self-esteem. Healthy esteem, I would say, can be an effective method of so-called BIRTH control. I don't even know if there's control, but more of an education. I think perhaps we do quick band-aids instead of getting to the root of a lot of our unhealthy esteem. And also being honest with, it's something that has to be modeled. It's not just these catchphrases that we can just throw around, which we're doing, and it's not yielding the results. It doesn't seem that we're turning out, large majority, millions of women and young women that are not swayed from their standard of putting your body temple in harm's way, where we don't question things. Why would I? It doesn't seem to make sense. Why would I put my reproductive organs in harm's way, right? But however, that subconscious and our need for attention is coming from somewhere, quite often it overrides common sense. So all of this I find is very connected to a natural healthy weight and how our skin, looks, and our vitality and how we feel. And isn't it interesting that feeling very stressed and anxious, can actually have a reverse effect. I call it coming through the back door, where we start medicating and soothing ourselves with snacks and foods, and a lot of recreational eating that cause a lot of the problems that we're so anxious about. So we get these quick fix solutions over the counter, and sometimes even in the health food store, that don't get to the root of what is causing the problem. And a lot of it is mental, if that makes sense. So, segueing to hair regimen. So very simple. That shampoo that I had, which is a great shampoo, I don't have access to it. I don't use it all the time. This is one of the very reasons I don't like to be on the host roll when it comes to products where I'm dependent on something. So I reckon if you use soap, and what's available that I can get, that I've bought in bulk and I've had it shipped, is black soap and diluted. Now I know for me with very fine hair, if there's any kind of film from the water, or residue or even sebum on my very fine hair, it will show as a gray cast in a shade, a film on the hair. So what I've done in the past is I've added a shower filter, because I can see and smell the quality, the difference in the water quality depending on where I'm living. Also, I don't really use much, but most recently I used a little diluted, black soap, to which I added like a teeny little, not even a teaspoon of cider vinegar, and something, even though I'm not big on oil, something I decided to experiment. And I had stopped the last time I did, I had a catastrophe. And on this channel, there's a video that's talking about the Twinkie syndrome. I was doing the most, and even though I don't put products in my hair, one day I was using oil, and oiling myself and being in water is very soothing to me. It's very therapeutic. So I was doing the mostest, and when I went to wash my hair, it felt very stiff. And when I tried to wash it out, it felt like I had waxy Twinkie, waxy stuff in my hair. And so I was terrified, right? Because I don't want all it. It felt kind of claustrophobic. So that's the first time I tried baking soda and apple cider vinegar, and it came out after a gazillion washes. My hair is already fine. It can't take it. So that was actually very damaging to my hair. So sometimes, similar to when we're loose natural, a lot of times we're not seeing the length because we're doing the most. So I wound up doing several trims to it. In addition, I used to like to wear a lot of beads and things from time to time. I'll still go put a bead or something in, but my hair doesn't like it. So I find all of those areas that makes the lock very compact, which may not be ideal for fine, cottony, Afro textured hair, because I've done several cuts on this. But if you look at the difference between this, right? Look at this. There's no Congo Nazis happening here. And just this, no twisting. It looks fuller because I've left it alone, right? So when people say it looks like it's thickening, it's really me just leaving the hair alone. So all I have to say, what I just tried, I went back and I tried some just olive oil, because my hair can get dry out in the, because I wash it often because that's soothing. Try to ease up on the washing, and usually in between washes, I'll rinse with black tea, and now I'm using more of the nopales, which feels fantastic. And also I went back to pulling aloe. Now I had stopped for a while because I used up so much of the aloe that I have to wait for more of the aloe to grow to fruition in my yard, right? So that's the humbling thing when you're growing stuff inside of your own yard. And one of my neighbors gifted me with a nice, big, gigantic, juicy piece of. See, this is why it's good for us to all have our own Afro flower gardens, right? So we can give people with some collard greens or some turnip greens or some aloe or some lemon basil or some cinnamon basil. So he gifted me with a nice piece of aloe, and I just blended it, strained it inside of the plant milk bag, the same one that I have on the Body-Culinary Etsy shop. And I strained it, and I was putting in my hair. I was like, oh my gosh, it feels, I forgot how wonderful it feels, right? Because my hair will look like, can look very dry, and it's dry brittle, and it's dry lack of, and it's just dry in terms of feel, but also this dry, and my hair is actually really, really soft. So what I did was I was just soothing my hair, if that makes sense. It's collagen, it's very soothing to me. I was massaging my hair, and then I did kind of like, you can call it like an oil rinse. I just rinsed it with oil. So maybe I'm finding it feels okay, and a lot of it rinsed out. Because again, if you wash it often, you're washing the oils out. And if your hair is very fine and it can pop off and break very easily, as I'm feeling and I'm sensing my hair, I'm like, okay, me overwashing it is affecting the elasticity and the plasticity of the hair. So I just tried it. It feels okay. I may do that maybe a couple of times a year, right? So that it's not totally dry. And then also, being that I'm rinsing it out, and I'm really squishing it through the hair so it's still nice and spongy, then I still don't have to oil my hair on a regular basis, if that makes sense. Because I do not oil my scalp. My scalp feels so healthy and free. I actually find if any kind of coconut oil or anything touches my scalp, it makes my scalp itch profusely. So I love having a scalp that can breathe, that doesn't feel clogged up. My scalp, it just doesn't get dry. And I think that's because I'm eating so much of the fresh, whole living fats from the inside. Even I was tempted to experiment with some onion juice, but to me, I just think a certain way with food. This should be simple. Eating fresh raw onions and I'm jumping up and down and exercising. My goal is to get it to my scalp via my vessels, and then also considering that everything gets trapped in his hair and I know it can't take a beating. So I said, okay, let me just continue to eat the raw onions that I'm eating. I don't have to jump on every trend. Hey, greetings, Jacqueline the Visionary. Sending some warm vibes. So I haven't been on in a while. I've been actually rehabbing my shoulder, which takes a lot of patience. And actually, this one I was actually in a lot of pain. So I don't like to claim stuff, but also the balance with that as a woman. I am not a mule. I'm not superwoman. I have retired my cape. I do need assistance sometimes. I enjoy nurturing and being cared for. I enjoy receiving reciprocation. That's something that's very, very important. It's not balanced. It's not balanced, or to be ego tripping on I'm doing, and extending energy outward and not allowing myself to receive, right? So I was actually shedding some tears this morning because I was in pain. And so I couldn't sleep. That's new for me. So I decided to leverage it, rewrite the narrative, and just sit and meditate, if you will. Observe the pain, observe the thoughts that were coming up. So humbling, so humbling. I used to go to a lot of ashrams. I used to go to ashrams and meditate. I don't think I've come to a point where I really don't think it's nice, but I don't think you need to go to the thank you so much. I don't think you need to go to the ashrams. If you are a mom, that's a spiritual practice. You sitting with yourself, and allowing feelings to come up that could almost seem like it's going to be psychological pain and you won't be able to take it. But even my attempt to just observe the thoughts that were coming up and different fears and different things like that, I was like, wow, that is, I don't know if any of you are familiar with Vipassana, but my goal is how can I live in this state without having to go to an ashram and having to rely on other people, even though you can use, insight from other people. But ideally, my goal is to be independent, self-reliant, and to do that for myself. So I was sitting, observing the pain, rinsing my mouth out with herbs and using clove oil because I had a toothache and a car accident, all in one take. So I'm feeling tremendously better. But it was just a moment where I was submitting to the pain. And in listening, I have this thing about listening to the thoughts that are coming up. Um, Once again, it's not the first time. It made me very, very humble to one, people that are deconditioned. I can say as a personal trainer, there are many personal trainers that think, oh, this person's overweight, I'm just going to whip them into shape. This is going to be easy. And even someone that may not have unhealthy amount of excess adipose or fatty tissue, when you're deconditioned, it could be so uncomfortable, even painful to get reconditioned, right? Which is why it's good to always do something so that you lose all of your conditioning. Also, somebody that's had an injury. I've had numerous clients over the years that have had injuries, and it can really take a toll on you. Somebody that's been very active and athletic, that can really mess with your head. After that, also what I did, because I'm not intending to use a bunch of oil, I took the aloe, I cut it, and I soaked it in a bit of water before I took the gel out. So that the yellow substance that could come out. Sometimes that yellow substance, I don't forget if it's allantoin or what the name of it is, it can make you itch when you're using aloe. And it can also, that yellow substance can stain your clothes. So I soaked it and then I made a gel out of it and strained it inside the plant milk bag. I love the plant milk bag because when you get the little pieces, aloe, even though it feels fantastic, when those pieces dry in your hair, it will dry and it will look like dandruff. Right? So I've been using the aloe on my face. I have a little regimen that I do. So it feels so good. I even keep the aloe in a squeeze bottle, the aloe gel that I make in a squeeze bottle inside the refrigerator, and take it and I put a very soft cotton pad, and that I will wipe my face with that during the course of the day. So keep in mind the dust from outside and the dust and the dirt from the soil inside the garden, all that stuff can get in our face. We've got lots of makeup and it's hot and lots of oil. All that stuff is contributing to clogging our pores, as well as the recreational eating that we're doing from the inside. So I invite folks, and I'm just saying this, some folks don't think I've had a lot of acne. So I posted that if you scroll back in the community section. And some folks didn't think I'm being funny, but I say my face was looking like the gravel in the sidewalk, It was really intense. It was not fun. So what cleared my skin up was my movement practice, right? I'm talking, yeah. I good? I'm online. That's my sister. So I found that, what was I saying? We were talking about aloe. So I found that, eating, hopefully I'm not off because I got thrown off my sister. Eating the foods primarily from the inside, and my movement practice, I think in pictures, I'm helping to circulate all that I'm eating, all that fresh food I'm paying all that money for. I'm circulating it through my system, and I'm also getting a really good sweat. Some of us are not sweating enough. And we're spending so much money on products, which I get it because I was a product girl. I was product junkie for the hair and the skin many years ago. And then there was a time where I just do my shower count. I just like, it should be simple. I should be able to have balance of behavior and get up and go here. We actually do. So I'm circulating all of the food through my system through movement. So movement is therapeutic for me here. It's therapeutic for me here. It helps me quiet down. It helps a lot of all that chitter chatter to dissolve it, as well as I feel such a even in one movement session when I'm challenging myself, vigorous movement, as I like to call it, it makes me feel like a sense of accomplishment. I'm talking to myself like I'm an athlete. There's a lot of things I didn't get to do as a child, but I've done to, for many years, reparent myself and give myself those experiences on my own. Took myself to charm school just because. Started sprinting at the park many years ago on my own. Get sprinting books from the library. Give yourself the experience, let your parents go. They were human beings with their own issues. I was the original product junkie. And it's taken me decades to finally get it right for my hair. Wow, I've learned that the oils in here made my hair look stringy and stuck together. Right, so that's interesting. It's quite a distinction if you have very fine hair. This was double. This was a big old. Look at this. This was a big old fluffy twist. So I think and it's such a spectrum. I really like this one young lady that has a channel called Green Beauty. And she did a nice breakdown of our hair beyond 4A, 4B, 3C, because she was like, we have such a wide spectrum, just like we have so many variations of melanation and chocolate and caramel, from zigzag texture, coily textures. So I found like there's some hair that I love. I love Valerie June's hair. There's so many folks with the big old thick knots. It's not my hair. So I've learned to, when I've tried different styles, it doesn't look the same. This is a big fluffy twist and it's compacted down to nothing. So now I can see this is what my hair looks like matured years later. And then also too much handling with me loving to wash my hair. This is going to break. So I've done numerous cuts. Put the ego to the side. It was hanging on. One time I was holding on to it with brown thread, which looked nice, but I was like, like a little piece of brown thread and brown hair because I was doing too much to it. Well, I just cut it off and let it go. And so one time I was kind of anxious. I didn't know what it would look like if I let it combine because of the interesting color And, you know, so I've just like submitted and I've just let it go. And so like, wow, look at what it's doing. So I'm not afraid of flat locks because this is what I got. Where am I going? I'm not going nowhere. You love these roosters. These are the alarm clocks around here. I would have to chase him in the morning till he woke me up in the crack of dawn. Well, you would be doing a lot of running child because there's a lot of roosters around here. Roosters are reigning supreme. You know, when they say, why the chicken cross the road? Well, they crossing the road over here all the time. So, so I think periodically, as far as a hair routine, I may maybe a couple of times a year do a light oil rinse so that my hair is not stripped. So again, it is very soothing to me to wash my hair. That shampoo is gone. Maybe I'll never find it again, which is fine with me because I've already trained myself to use stuff from the yard. So the nopales, which that video is still sitting in this computer. I gotta upload it. It feels like, if you listen to your, it feels like, it feels so fantastic. Plus, that nopal can go in a smoothie. You know me. One thing, we do it the ways of the grandmothers and activate the ways of the grandmothers and the mothers. One item, flip it every which way to Sunday. So that I've tried dehydrating it for friends and clients, and me sampling it. I don't prefer dehydrated food so much, even though at one time when I first started consuming living foods as a lifestyle, you know, I'm a chef, so I like to play and experiment. I love to feed people. However, over the years, my palate has changed, you know, so it's one of the reasons why I don't think we necessarily need to lock ourselves into a box and go into all these different camps. Your sweet spot is your unique sweet spot. And if we could just relax, you'll find your way there, and you experiment and you get some feedback. So I think I'll do that periodically. I'll take, my sister and I had a big thing of black soap like this. So that'll last me like forever and a day. I cut that into pieces and make it into a liquid. So I use that for reproductive organs and sacred parts, and I'll dilute it and periodically use that in between. And I don't need to do that often. I'm using the nopales, and I'm using maybe I'll do the okra, but the nopales is great. And I think also the aloe, right? So I'm telling you, my scalp feels fantastic. Not an ounce. And sometimes we look close because it's clean. We have an actual natural sheen in our hair, right? So it would be different if this was loose and I had to manipulate my hair. Then more than likely I would use shea butter or something to coat it when handling it. But I've cut all of that out. I'm with simplicity. I don't have to do all of that stuff here. So that's pretty much it. So I still don't have to oil it on a regular basis. Maybe 4 times a year I'll do like an oil rinse and squeezing it all out. So I want it fluffy, but I don't want it stripped. And I do cleanse and immerse myself in water, honestly. And most likely I'm not going to stop doing it. Everybody has their thing because it's a trade-off for me. It's soothing. So I even do different things with oil and fruits and vegetables. I've said it before. I'm unapologetic. I put fruits and vegetables on my skin. Literally, people keep asking me. Yes, I put the literal fruits and vegetables on my skin. I feel like I trust them more. It's not toxic chemicals. I can see how it behaves as it washes down the drain, and it's giving me the best results. Anything I've even used from the food co-op and the health food store, and it's simple. I like simple. Simple to me is relaxing. Oh, hey, love one way. Yeah, so that's what I'm using. So maybe a couple times a year I'll do a light oil rinse, and I'm all about what's simple and accessible. Olive oil is what I could find. So I just did light coating while I'm stroking my hair, and then I rinsed it with water. In between it is the green tea, the Pales cactus which feels very like a thick mucilage, straining it well through the plant milk bags. And then also the aloe. I blend it, put it inside of a squeeze bottle, and that's what I'm putting over here. So I don't do the whole baby hair thing. That was when I was in high school. But I can see with my, I like to leave my hairline alone because, again, as somebody with fine hair, it cannot take twist, and this will all be off of my head. And I can actually feel a difference in it feeling hydrated. And also, these, like my hair, even though it's so fine, this will lock all the time. So I used to just cut these off. Now I just leave it. So I have this thing about being relaxed in my skin and listening to it. Whenever I see something, I wouldn't call it a flaw, but whenever I see how my hair and skin behave, I listen to the thoughts that come up around it, and I question anything that's a program that did not come from me. This is bad, it's wrong, it's ugly. And other folks will consider my hair ugly, will consider this ugly. People will scoff if I went into a bank or whatever. That's not my business and it's not my concern. I am embracing every single drop of myself. So the other thing I just wanted to touch on before I get off is, are we trying too hard to be beautiful? Now, this is just, again, one woman's perspective. It doesn't resonate. That's okay. You can always comment respectfully. And what I mean by trying too hard, now, I do think it's very luxuriating and it's very calming and soothing to groom ourselves. But again, like the part that's has us insecure and reinforcing insecurities and making us feel like we're crazy. We got to take a good majority of our money and save it up for these different procedures. However, not thinking of the long-term effects. And this is just something I have to say to my offspring. Ghetto fabulous poverty. Everything that we own is on our back, and it depreciates in value. So I have to tell my offspring, I'm not supporting ghetto fabulous poverty over here. So if we're making ourselves crazy and everything emotionally, and our whole narrative around being chosen, and chosen for what? A whole narrative around being chosen is hinged off of getting a procedure that I got to pay somebody for, and is altering me for this small window of time. And now that I've been seasoned, got a little bit of life experience, I know you do certain things permanent to yourself, a lot of your views will change. Your views on health, marriage, your sexuality, and your sensuality changes over the years as you get more life experience. There may be certain things you're naive to, ignorant to, you haven't lived a lot of life. So, I don't know that, it's actually beneficial to alter ourselves permanently at a young age. And I really don't want to squash the creativity or the self-expression of any of the younger women that come to this page. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just inviting you to consider, getting a keloid or potential some of these procedures, altering yourself when you may not. You may want to be a bit more conservative in certain areas when you get older. You may not think of how, as your skin texture changes, as things change shape or not as voluptuous after or as firm when you're breastfeeding, how that's going to look if you've tatted, in somebody's name who you may likely not be with years ago. You've got everybody's name tatted in their energy and that period of life and that life experience. You stamped it onto yourself permanently when it changes. So I invite you, just perhaps something to try on. There's some beautiful golden tattoos as well as safe henna. You get henna. There's so many great artists, and there's a certain type of henna though that is actually very dangerous. There's a type that you can get at some of these pop-up festivals and fairs. So you have to be very careful. They can be poisonous, and you can have an allergic reaction, and that's no bueno. Your whole face can swell up. But you can play around with moving these tattoos, and maybe something for us to think of as moms, as mothers, is to maybe perhaps support our daughters in being creative without permanently altering ourselves, right? Because peer pressure is a real thing, and also trying things on for size to express. Maybe mom and daughter can go get some, henna tattoos together. So 2 things, let me make a note. 2 things I'm gonna post is that I'm gonna post a link for some really beautiful tats that are not permanent. I mean, when I tell you they're exquisite, they're not expensive. Oh, they look so beautiful. And you can get them in gold. You can get them in black and gold and silver. Ooh, they are so beautiful. See, I love girly things and feminine things. And you may want a butterfly here. You may want a diamond here. And they're pain-free, so you can play around and be expressive. I think perhaps they may have some hair rinses, even though I don't think my hair can take a bunch of dye. But I think they have much better technology in terms of some plant-based things or colorings to color the tips of your hair. I'm just wary of altering yourself permanently at a young age. I encourage women to let your daughter's hair, for a healthy sense of vanity, let it grow down to the floor. Let it go down to the floor and sit. And maybe perhaps you have your little pillows or your chairs. I remember my mom and I used to watch Shirley Temple movies. Shirley Temple movies while she was plaiting my hair in those big old boxy Caribbean braids. I didn't think it was stylish, but I remember that ritual. So perhaps we can create some special rituals with our glasses and our cups, a tea party and some scents, and really make it a good memory. Maybe invite, a little impromptu slumber party, juicing party. And at that time, you can be relaxed and discuss hygiene while you're having beautiful fruits and all that other stuff. It doesn't always have to be a smorgasbord of recreational eating, because hygiene is what we're eating too, right? So to buy all of these different benzoyl peroxide, and this is just one woman's perspective, I was addicted to every junk food on the market. To spend money on benzoyl peroxide, salicylic acid, retinol, while we're still eating recreational food makes no sense to me. That doesn't make any sense. So I find that is the way, excuse me, plant, that is the way that we're moving out here. Like almost like the critical thinking is not really switched on. It's not sharp. Feel like we're lulled to sleep. And I think it happens to the best of us, well, whether we will admit it or not. So to the point where I retrain my eyes, where certain things don't make sense to me or certain things don't occur to me as food, which I was chowing down on before, but not anymore. So I'm going to link the tattoos, and I'm going to, it was I don't know the young lady's channel, but it was a really good presentation she did on things about BBLs that are not being discussed. And I'm just putting this out there because a lot of times I think of, wow, if somebody had had certain conversations, it could save some young women like some life-altering decisions that you just do like that. You think it's insignificant, or you're just not thinking long-term, and you maybe jacked yourself up and put yourself at risk for an STD, parenting before you're ready with somebody else that's not willing to be a committed parent, a father, which neither one of you is if you haven't prepared for it. These are life-altering decisions that not only affect us, they affect the whole community. We got a lot of people running around that are narcissists, and narcissists usually are coming from a space of trauma. So we can't tell everybody what to do, but we do hold tremendous responsibility. It doesn't exonerate other people of their responsibility, but you only can be responsible for yourself. So I just share some of this, hopefully, with one of the young women that have reached out to me or that do come to this channel, because they're different ages that come to this channel. Certain decisions made in a flash of second guessing yourself, or in that moment, it was so enticing to want to please other people, or putting ourselves in harm's way for the exchange, the currency of attention, of validation. It's not bad or wrong. All of us want to be seen and heard and validated, but it's more emotional and a story not based in logic that has life-altering consequences. That's why I share on this channel. And if I had only known about living foods as a young child, if there's certain things I knew about living food in terms of protecting my teeth more from a lot of the things that are acidic, it could save you time. Certain information can really shorten your learning curve. It doesn't have to take you 30 years or 10 years to get in shape. One of the reasons why I discovered coaches years ago. So I think perhaps I always like to recommend that young women and folks invest in your education, not just education to be a worker, but for yourself. I'm big on educating myself because for me, I'd rather not choose to continue the legacy of obesity in my family, and the diabetes and the amputations and the mastectomies. A lot of it's from lifestyle, not to make folks bad or wrong, but how we are managing stress. And a lot of folks didn't have YouTube, they didn't have yoga videos, back then. So that's one of the reasons why I share some of these things. And I like to think of, what are the things that you have access to? The things that you have access to. A lot of time the conversation is, when I get a new this, or when I get my money this. There's a tremendous amount of currency, right? There's a lot that you have access to in your self-care rituals. For me, one of them is bathing, washing myself, laying on the floor, stretching, my plants, my little garden. Those things are extremely therapeutic. That's something that I do have control over. That is something that I have access to. That's something I have access to. We used to watch this movie too. The Shirley Temple. Funny how time changes things. The time I was so Freeformlocs, I was in my 20s, and I said, ooh, what is that? Interesting. Now that I think of it, my cousin Linda, who was Rasta when I was a little girl, now that I think of it, she had freeform locks. It never occurred to me. But when I remember the grown-ups talking about locks and the T-Ross locks. And my cousin, so pleasant, so nice. Shout out to you, Linda, wherever you are. And she was an artist. She used to make her own jewelry. I had never seen somebody with their own business selling, making jewelry. And I never heard somebody talking about Africa or your people. She had an interesting Bayesian English accent. But really, when she got out of the shower and she was washing her hair was so thick. And it was thick and it was shiny. And she took her scarf off and she was shaking her hair and she had her hair. I will never forget that scent. I talk about this scent a lot. That scent left a mark in my brain. And I remember the grown-ups that were talking and I was like, she's not dirty. I was like, wow, she smells clean. That smell was so pleasant and nice in her hair. Now I know what the oil is that she used to put in her hair, but I was like, she's clean. And I never saw somebody's hair so thick and full like that. And her sister, I didn't get to see her when I was little. I wasn't allowed to go around her. She had locks back in the day that were way dragging, not dragging, but way down past the back of her legs, I think, way past her butt. But I only heard the adults talk about it. But the way they referred to it was dirty Ross locks. But as a little girl, I'm like, she's not dirty, and her hair smells nice and is clean, and she's pleasant. And she makes her little tofu cakes, So she was like, she was an enigma to me. So just me smelling her hair, watching her shake out her hair after she washed in oil, and watching her oil her hair, I just intuitively said, "Daddy, can I get that?" And I was told, no, if you ever get those dirty Ross locks, you never get a penny from me. So I'm affected by what I'm seeing. I never wanted a perm until I saw my cousins with it. And then when I saw my cousin Linda, I didn't know nothing about no locks. I just know she had thick hair, it was shiny, and it smelled fantastic. And she was nice. And she was just very peaceful. For me, I just noticed a lot of Rasta sisters. Something I noticed about they seem, I don't know if it's because sometimes they were high. I don't know. But I just know they seem so relaxed. And I have a video on this channel called Why I Think Rasta Women are Some of the Most Beautiful Women in the World. There was just a calm regalness about them. I would see them in Brooklyn with their little Tams, with their little business. It was kind of like an energy. And I always found them to be very doting on their children. All right. That made an impression on me from a young lady. So it's interesting how I circled all the way back around to locks. And I would have never thought, I was like, for years, I was like, I don't want no locks. I was too busy with the cornrows and double strand twists and flat twists before it was even so much of a big thing. And I was enjoying it. However, at some point, I just wanted convenience and I was tired of breaking my very delicate hair off with the detangler. And I was like, I have other things to do. So I would have never thought I would have locks. Definitely not anything akin to freeform or semi-freeform locks. So, hey, who knew? Now living this world, I now realize that our skin, hair, and culture is beautiful. I was sister lock first and now I'm freeform. I love, one of my good friends did sister locks, most beautiful sister locks I have ever seen. She has such a great sense of style. I thought about getting sister locks. If I did, I would have had her do it. However, I just know for me, anything restrictive to me in terms of clothing or having to feel like I have to sit in a barbershop. Even at one point I used to shave my head and I had a little peach fuzz with designs, one of my favorite styles. So if this was hanging on by a little shoestring, I could cut this off in a second and feel fine. I feel very stunningly gorgeous with very, very low hair. But feeling like I had to go to the barbershop and I had to be subjected to all of this, mishmash male talk. No offense to the brother men out there. I felt like, where's the women's barbershop when we could go in and have our fresh juices and have it just catering to women? Like the music I'm listening to, I don't want to watch sports while I'm getting my hair cut. Eventually I stopped and I got my own clippers and I was cutting my own hair. And I was like, wasn't the most professional, but I was like, I felt like I'm not on the whole stroll. I can take care of my hair on my own. That's actually very liberating to me. Same thing with products. I don't like to feel like I'm a slave to a product. So even I really used to love getting my eyebrows threaded. I love that threading. But I watched over years. I feel like I'm lucky that any of my eyebrows came back. And so now I brush them up and over this way. So in my head, I'm just creating my own aesthetic, which is me at the center, which is not based on insecurity. So although I can put on some mascara every now and then, maybe with a Q-tip, a little dot of glitter, I like that. But for the most part, I just really cherish the being able to be comfortable in my own skin. Maybe this sounds redundant, but I just think it's so important. I don't know if many of us would be defensive or not acknowledge that we're not comfortable in our own skin. I can appreciate style, colors, dyes, makeup, but can we really, in your own quiet moments, can we really say that we think our own, what we have is the best, what we have been divinely assigned? Can we really see that we think it's the best? I'm not talking about just creative expression and playing around, but do we think that what we have is the best fit for us? That's why I think our mental health comes into play. So, in the climate that we're in, I'm just unapologetically protective of my psyche. And I'm very clear on the conflict of interest of people providing me solutions that can create greater problems, potentially growths in my womb or tumors or cysts. I've worked in enough health professions to look at long term the effects of not investing in your health and your fitness level. I would even say over here, health is my number one beauty product. That's what allows me to be comfortable so I don't feel spastic, like I can't go outside if I don't have makeup on. That's a horrible feeling. One time my skin was broke out so bad for me, and I went into work. I put on makeup and it felt crazy. I'm like, I'm running on a treadmill with a weighted vest on, and I'm getting down for the crown with some of my male clients, and I gotta have makeup. Even one of my male clients was like, that looks really interesting. It was just so not me. Maybe for a photo shoot one day I'll do it. But this is number one for me. This is number one. And when I'm 60 and I'm 70, I desire for this to be number one. So I'm intentional. I even, for years, even as a young woman, have always looked at women that look good in their 70s, 80s, and 100. For some reason, I look for these women. I love to see a natural aesthetic. So I'm always saying to myself, honey, the natural small tetas, they're in style. I'm bringing them back. I'm celebrating the fact that they're healthy. See, that's the distinction. I question somebody writing the narrative, like when they say, oh, your brows frame the face. Okay, I get that. I was looking at a French Vogue the other day. And I was looking at the captions because I couldn't understand the French. It was a lovely video, but I think it's very interesting, some of the French aesthetic, how this woman, she was a makeup artist, but she looked very fresh and clean. And she was like, oh, the French aesthetic is like very full eyebrows. And I think it's so interesting that although I love our creativity, I think also sometimes I feel like we're very pressured to be an imitation of someone else. And so when is it that the ratio becomes we're the foundation and we get to go out and play and express, if that makes sense? And ultimately, when I look at our behavior and how one of my litmus tests is if we're putting ourselves in harm's way, that says to me there's insecurity there, there's trauma there. It doesn't make sense for you to put your reproductive organs and yourself in physical harm's way with people, with substances. So that's what the litmus test I'm doing. I like to go to the root of why I'm doing what I'm doing. And we know, or you may or may not know, that a lot of our behaviors are driven by the subconscious. 1997 was the year I stopped chemicals in my hair. And I believe, woo, child, you had the Jerry curl wigs, and I decided I was done. Soul clap for that one. I'm going to tell you a secret. I don't know if I meant to do it on this channel. I had a Jerry curl and a gold tooth. My father, my West Indian father, my Bajan father, he took me to get a gold tooth that had a heart in it. Oh my gosh, when I look back at that picture. Oh gosh, it looks so horrible. It looks so horrible, but how's that go to? Can we really say that we're not affected by social media? It's like saying that there's no global warming. That's what I'll make it akin to. Us saying that we're not affected by the images on social media and the magazines and the so-called celebrities. It's like saying there's no global warming. So, I'm not in the business of like not calling what it is. We're deeply affected. our esteem, our mental health is deeply affected by narratives that Afro women are not writing. It's not primarily us in these boardrooms doing the think tanks around what products are going to be pushed. I remember when I went to the food co-op the last time I was there, and I saw Dark and Lovely products in the food co-op. In particular, I think it was some kind of a natural pomade or something. I was like, wow. Okay, so now Dark and Lovely's getting in on the natural game. That's why I'm into Afronomics, Afroflowernomics, coming down the pipeline, because we should be flourishing economically as the only people with this particular beauty stamp on the planet. We should be thriving with $1 trillion business. We should be thriving on every Afro hairpiece, locks, expanded beyond just the shea butters, everything that goes with beautifying this. This is a whole culture, economy, culture, if you will, cultural economy. That's why I call it Afronomics, Afroflowernomics. I'm developing it as we come along. But there's no reason we should be going around the world to see, sisters or women, Afro women of the diaspora, exploiting ourselves for dollars that go right back to the beauty supply store. So this is potential. If you think of Tupperware and Avon and Mary Kay, this has potential. This has potential. And just like, some of our other religious counterparts have a whole culture and an economy and culture, our Asian counterparts, our Semitic counterparts, they have made their culture feed them. One of my elders, she says, your culture should feed you. My godfather, he said, charge for your culture. So I say this on YouTube, charge for your culture. Allow your culture to feed you. And my godfather, bless him, he told me, I don't know, almost 30-something years ago, he said, see, y'all, he said, you don't charge for it. Because you don't charge for your culture, he said, somebody's going to come over here and take your classes and go back to their country and teach a master class and come back and teach to you and charge you a premium. Way ahead of his time. Way ahead of his time. So now if you look online, some music, and you won't even know if it was us. You won't even know. So charge for your culture unapologetically. Because who else has this? Who else got this beauty mark? I'm just saying, it's time for us to be more strategic and more creative. May not have a whole landmass, especially with the American dialect. May not have our own language intact. But the one thing that we have access to that we can cultivate is health. We got this beautiful chocolate sun-kissed, in various shades, we have this skin. Last time I checked, people are paying for the Africoid aesthetic. They'll tell you, well, some will tell you, some won't. Folks are now, what they call it, some kind of fishing. They got different types of fishing. So why don't we just get more creative? What could we do? So I know I have like several ideas. I'm an idea person on the pipeline. All I do know is that this is a whole economy of education, schools, culture, passing down hygiene, passing down herbs. That's what I'm doing over here, Afroflowernomics. That's what I'm be doing over here. This has tremendous possibilities. It's attractive. I have literally, if I'm gonna do some affirmation, I'm gonna be triggered. I'm gonna trigger myself with some nature and with my own stuff. So if people are gonna cast a spell on you, might as well cast a spell on your own self. So you might as well create something. Nobody, no offense, and I can appreciate my Asian homegirls, my Irish homegirls. Hey, I can appreciate some India. Oh my God, some of the most beautiful women in the world. Where we at? The only one that has a vested interest in you taking your seat in comfort and relaxation and seeing that you are the best, most attractive thing is you. So that's why I kind of say I'm unapologetic, and health is my #1 beauty product. When we're healthy, like people say, like glow, it will come from inside. Also, if we spend all this money as expensive products, sometimes we're not reaping the benefits because we're taking in these products, but we're not leaving out a lot of the recreational eating, or we're not investing and learning how to be creative with eating healthy. And so more than eating healthy is eating, I love reframing narratives. That's my thing, is eating beautifully. So I like to say I'm eating for my mood. I'm eating for vitality. I'm eating for longevity. I'm leading in a way that's going to foster my brain, because there's electricity in the brain to make better decisions. So you say I didn't even mention the food there. So if I'm following the principles, that will help line up my decisions. It's easy. And then I have somebody trying to stick me, and get in my purse, my psyche, and my panties. If somebody's going to write the narrative, it might as well be you. Hey, greetings, Araya. They now want to learn how to lock to make money from it, because those beauty supply stores have been losing money. Ciao. I just saw, so you saw the wick locks. I love those wick locks. I love sister locks, wick locks. Ciao. I think this brother is Mexican and got his whole family. He got a whole business. He's doing all the teams down in Florida. Do you see what I'm saying? My godfather was correct. So how is it that we don't have it? We know we're creative and we got style and we got fashion. Where's the sisters servicing? Don't get me started, because I got a million ideas. I'm selling them something in the workshop. Where's the salon? Why it's not 50 million salons with sisters serving you, but they want to look at your pretty chocolate face? Let them come in and pay and get their hair done and get some nice fresh juices at the same time. Pay me if you open up that salon, because I have fabulous ideas. How come it's not women offering these services? Why? Come on now. We got to get more strategic and more creative. Natural hair, we're making it complicated, but it's also the experience. It's the experience. Like, let's say in my travels now that I see, okay, now I've been wearing waist beads for over 30 years. Actually, I'm here working on, I'm going to have some new ones, because I take my time. I know people are ordering them mass produced, but I just love the colors. So I'm just working on this one. So, and me nurturing myself and not thinking too much about being in pain, I've been working on some new waist beads here. They're so pretty. Experiment with different threads. So it's not mass produced. So people, you can get things cheaper, but it doesn't have another kind of energy on it. So I've been wearing waist beads for over 30 years. And when I think of waist beads, I think of the experience. I have the memories of me in African dance class and looking at the more mature woman at the front of the line that knew the steps, and all the musicians that were there. And there was a sister in the corner selling veggie patties and drinks. Somebody else was selling lapas. That's one of my most prized memories. That's culture. That's African-American culture. We had sometimes different folks coming from the continent to teach. My godparents are Afro-American, and it was a lot of African-American sisters in. Some white French girls was coming in. Oh my gosh. If anybody knows about Forces of Nature back in the day at the Cathedral of St. John the Divine, the most rockinest African dance class ever. And shout out to Esther Grant, one of my first African dance teachers. But that's a whole culture. That's a whole, it wasn't so much I'm not going to say what it wasn't, but the memory of that. I danced all the way through my pregnancy. And when I had that little baby, as soon as I got the green light, honey, I put him in that little rocker, took him to dance class, and put him right down by those drummers so I can get my dance class in. So the girl right now, those waist beads on me would get lost in a roll. Listen. Although I have mixed feedback on body positivity, here's what I will say about body positivity. I think there's a distinction between being complacent or being in denial with the objective facts about your health. And I'm saying that as somebody that's been in personal training nutrition for years, and I have a family of cousin died not that long ago from complications of morbid obesity and cancer. A lot of this is research, the comorbidities, the diseases that hang out together, high blood pressure, diabetes, and heart disease. So I think you should at the same time love you. I like to say it like this, or I phrase like this: love yourself to another level, because this is the hair that I have right now. Stretch marks I have from giving birth. This is me. This is all of my experience loving all of you. We've made errors in judgment, quote unquote, mistakes, sometimes in ignorance, but this is all of who you are. So I say body positivity for me, what it looks like is loving yourself to another level, but I'm not going to wait to love myself. So for me, I'm not going to wait to put waist beads on. So that's part of, I think, of a beautiful use of waist beads, and I would call it not just waist beads. So I'm really big on putting a narrative on it that can be beneficial to you. Like I was big years ago on looking for a womanhood class. Call it what you want. I don't know why I'm wired like that. I'm looking for a femininity class or something, and my godparents told me to go and volunteer somewhere of my choice in my community. And I don't talk about it a lot on this channel, but I was into herbs and healing because my grandma Lou and my great grandma Mackie both very into natural this and natural that. And also, now I think it was because of all the obesity. And even though I couldn't articulate it as well as I can now, I saw patterns of medication, not just the drugs and the alcohol and the cigarettes, but I could piece together that we were, the women were medicating with food and that it was socially acceptable because we're feeding, we're feeding everybody. So who's going to say anything about mama as she's feeding everyone? And I also sometimes like to say children don't buy groceries. So a lot of our habits, not making us look bad or wrong, more so accountable and responsible, right? Our habits we pass on down to the children. So when I looked at pictures of my mom and her poodle skirt with a little waist, actually my mother just sent me another picture of it. I was like, oh my gosh, my mom was like a dime. Oh my mother was fine. So and seeing these pictures of how I used to like, how do we go from this to this? Like, what's that process? What's happening? So my eyes were peeled to see the patterns, to see like how that happened. I could ascertain frustration, disappointment, anger, maybe dreams missed, dreams deferred. Maybe, back then, they were encouraged to have big families. So I would have never know what my grandma, maternal grandmother, what dreams she had. I know she was telling me, you're going to be a nurse. So sometimes we project our things, not with bad intention, onto our children. But I just remember anger, frustration, and the only outlet I remember folks having was church. Reverend Ike and him sending prayer cloths and the 700 Club. That was the outlet. That was that. And so you got bigger and bigger, and you just, they just had to suck it up. So I make an effort to understand, right? So I'm not holding any of them hostage because they did what they could with whatever they knew, and they had their own stuff going on. So I've made a decision to reparent myself and be 110% responsible with shifting certain cycles to the best of my ability in my life cycle. So I was like, I don't want to end up overweight. And even with your best intentions, it's not a bit of science. So going into personal training and fitness, first of all, is extremely therapeutic. And initially, African dance wasn't for fitness. It was because it made me feel good and I like dancing. But that led me eventually down a path to fitness and a lot of things I could do on my own when other friends didn't want to go do it with me. So it was a lot and continues to be a lot of self-discovery I have found in what I call a personal movement practice and also vigorous, joyous movement. See, that's different than exercise or going to, and I've worked at all kinds of different gyms, but going to a gym and doing something mindlessly or on the stairmill while you're drinking a mocha loca latte and reading the paper, not really engaged. That's different. African dance, I would never think of reading a newspaper in African dance class. I'm having too much fun. As a matter of fact, I don't want nothing extra on my body holding me back because I want to be as fully expressive as possible when I'm dancing. So you can see the two different experiences. And then the experience I find is a shortcut. And the same principle applies to food. When you're having fun and when you're learning, when you're fully engaged, you don't want to go home. You don't want to stop. You feel like you could dance forever. It's a principle. It's a way of processing the whole experience that you have. And this is something you have access to, and it's something that's sustainable, right? I want things and practices that can nurture me, that I have access to until I'm 100. I really do. I intend on jumping double Dutch, with any of my adopted community children and nieces, should my offspring have children. That's what I'm looking forward to. I'm looking forward to being able to play. And so I'm very clear I will not be able to do that if I do not invest in those movement meditation sessions with myself. So if I'm finding, and it can happen to all of us, that in my narrative is I don't have enough time, then I know that's a red flag. That's a lot of anxiety that's holding me back from getting into action around what I say is important and something that I enjoy so much. When we let ourselves get deconditioned, it's like you forget, right? That when you come back to getting conditioned, it feels so hard. It is so uncomfortable. The first place you're going to feel the breakthrough is here, right? Because you kept your word, you're in integrity with yourself. But when you finally get back to that place where you're enjoying movement, it's like, Eureka, you kidding me? I could have been doing this the whole time. With just some education around how to rehab injuries, how to work around injuries, how to address my knees, how to address my lower back, how to eat for energy rather than just having a mindset where I'm reliant on bull and coffee, right? We just follow the narratives that have been served up for us unquestioningly, from beauty to what we're eating, whatever people put out in their magazines. And I don't find all the time it's not really applying to us. I just think we need to write our own narrative. So I have visions and memories of sitting down in the kitchen with Grandma Lou, and I got a plastic lunch tray right here in her honor. People will laugh. I don't care. That plastic lunch tray, rolled pennies, picked peas, chopped seasoning. So much went on with that plastic lunch tray. I sat down next to Grandma Lou. Oh, and I grated coconut for her coconut sweetbread. And I don't think she knew that she was transmitting so much to me in that little bit of time together. I don't even know what we were talking about, waiting for the coconut bread to cool. But there's something about that experience I find that is missing. It was so calming. It was so centering. It was so safe. My Grandma Lou was so pleasant and fresh. She was so much fun. I don't think she knew. She will never know what an impact she made on me. So I think that is something somehow I find it's missing, that transmission of I don't know if I want energy, but definitely values, culture, common sense, right? We don't have to get so esoteric. Grandma Lou was infusing me with common sense as we're cutting up season, or she's mixing the stuff with coconut sweetbread. Every now and then she'll put what I call the Caribbean Catholic music on the station. You know, the Caribbean channel. Sometimes you have country music on there, or whatever. So from Barbados, you'll catch the station here. And sometimes, all the stuff, all kind of crazy stuff. Then you go into some Caribbean gospel. And Grandma would just be floating around the house like an ant and a hummingbird and making her little bread and stuff. And I said, Grandma, ain't you going to use a measuring cup? She just started chuckling and said, no, child. You know, and she, doing her little hand flick. And then when she was singing gospel music, so Pentecostal, southern side of my family is churchified, right? Pentecostalified. So I said, Grandma, you're not going to go to church? And she started laughing. She said, no, I ain't not going there to get at my money. That little nugget is packed full of common sense. And actually, that little nugget is a litmus test by which, when I go out into the world, I measure other things. So this is what I'm saying. We're making things out to be so complicated when in the natural day-to-day, when we involve young people in certain life practices in life, making food out in the garden, that's when you're transmitting loads of information and anecdotes and life experiences. Everybody's in their own little closet saying, "My, hi, YouTube family," and not interacting with each other. I don't think this is a substitute for interacting. It may require us to be more creative in the times that we're living in. But I swear to you, I know if I came over to your house with my double Dutch rope and with some goodies in my bag and some cut up fruit, we would just be having a great time. It would be so natural. There's some kind of community minus cults. I ain't talking about no cults because there's a lot of that activity going around. But that kind of communing with each other and having like fun and learn at the same time, it's missing. That whole narrative is we're allowing it to be narrated by common, rap culture, unfortunately. I'm sorry, not sorry. I can't get with it. I cannot. This ain't me being bitter or I cannot. I could see it coming across 125th Street. No offense to the sister Cardi B. I didn't know who she was when I first heard about it. I was like, you haven't heard Cardi B? You haven't heard Cardi B? And when I finally heard when I saw it, eventually I was like, let me look up and see who these folks are talking about. And when I looked at her, shout out to her and her family. As soon as I saw her, what came to my brain, I said, this young lady, they are going to push her. they are going to push her out front. This is the thought that just came up for me. I said, any sense of morals and I'm not a prude at all. I said, any sense of order or morals, whatever that we have, they're going to use her. They're going to use her to push a certain type of narrative, in particular to put ourselves in harm's way. And so call me simple, but you just get more laser as you become more seasoned. Two things I see missing. There are two things that I see missing from all of these different narratives: political, gender wars, whatever your gender, whatever your expression. That's not the issue. You should be being safe. That's the issue. And thinking long-term effects. Two things I see missing that I don't hear that level the playing field, which is why I love principles. I prefer principles over people and personalities. Because the principles, there's no special salesman. Accountability and responsibility. If you apply those two things as principles, it levels the playing field. You could apply that to your hair. If you want the hair, be responsible whatever you're going to do to your hair. Responsible for your health. Responsible and accountable for how you use your reproductive organs. Responsible and accountable for how you use your finances. Accountable and responsible for how you use your time. So I was like, okay, I figured out another little life principle for myself that helps me to be clear and grounded as women, in particular as Afro women. Not being clear and grounded in some types of principles when so much is competing in a hypnotic way to entice you has disastrous consequences. Doesn't mean you can't be creative, expressive, artistic, whatever you want to do. But if accountability for everything you do, you are accountable, and responsibility for however it comes out, whether you're naive or not, levels the playing field. Accountability and responsible. However you want to identify, are you accountable and responsible for the music you put out? See, doesn't mean you can't have fun, but accountability and responsibility. So I discovered it's the principles. That's my guide. That's what will keep me safe. I really feel that we need a litmus test so you can tell who's in front of you at any particular time, what their motive is for the solution to your problem. So you can avoid cults being exploited, putting yourself in harm's way, putting your health in harm's way, because sometimes it just takes so long to recover. It could take you years if you recover, and we're not encouraged. I mean, somebody really to tell you that if you alter a look on the outside, that is going to change your whole trajectory about how you feel for yourself. How did you get to the point you felt insecure in the first place? You know, it's too much coming at us, and I just find it's a conflict of interest. Kids don't play double dutch or hopscotch, and wow, double dutch is that all my aunties could get down with double dutch. Today's generation, and I would say like there's some things I actually really love about this generation, because I think every generation has something, right? Every generation has a gift and an offering. I can think about two really exquisite spirits now who are not of my generation, but they are so bold and brazen and creative. I feel like we have a really great exchange throughout the generations. Again, something I just came up with. I always like to ask myself, what did my mom's generation and the previous generations get right? And where did they miss the mark? Right? So I'm not beholden to the past, but I want to leverage and capitalize off of some of the lessons learned, so I don't have to start back at ground zero. There's some things that we're starting back at ground zero. Like, for example, very practical, in terms of our reproductive health, we should not be putting our reproductive organs in harm's way unless we're just being total denial of the stats for our health, right? And there's a lot of information. We're just not doing our homework, which comes down to we're not being responsible / we're extremely distracted. So we don't need to reinvent the wheel. There's like 4 new STDs, STIs out there. It's like, wow. So that says to me a lot of folks are not talking about, and everything doesn't need to be on social media, are not sharing with you as they're sharing their music and enticing you to just go on a free fall. They're not telling you about the radioactive fallout of their decisions. So people don't have a problem with you putting yourself in harm's way and their profit and your expense. See, these are things that I feel like make my eye kind of keen. It's like somebody sharing their habits with me, and I don't like their results. Like if I see you lethargic, you don't have get up and go, you don't have any drive, then if you're eating heavy and you're over medicated or over substance abuse, then I don't want what you have, because I don't want to share that result with you, if that makes sense. So it's not necessary for me to condemn somebody. It's just not what I'm looking for. If I see that, yeah, it's just not what I'm looking for. It's not what I'm looking for. I know in terms of parenting, my goal is to do it better to the best of my ability. So why would I want to continue certain trajectories? And also, I find, and just me as a woman, that it's selfish. I want validation and attention like most women, but just not to consider long term that, a child that I rear, I know they need safety. We talk about men in their ego. Can I admit that I can't provide for them what they will need, their safety, their emotional health, and we just keep winging it, and we're not handling certain things ourselves. I'm not saying we need to be perfect, but these are things that need to be provided for. If we just look around, look at the results. There's so much narcissism on the planet, and as women, we complain. We complain, but also we play a role too. So rather than making us bad or wrong, I think it's for us to get grounded. So for me, that's what waist speeds, and I call it now waist speed training. I remember years ago when I was looking for that womanhood class, and it was great, and I got pamphlets, but I was looking for something more. So when I think of waist speeds, and I'm glad that they're there, but it's not just for the adornment. I think the adornment is great to decorate your waist, and you can see it when you're dancing. And if you have roles, then I say with the acne, and some people may disagree in your roles, I say thank you. Thank you, because your body's communicating to you. So love that role. Say, thank you for tapping me on my shoulder with a communication. Thank you. Thank you. My acne was telling me that my organs are going through trauma because I'm doing all of this recreational eating. And I love to eat, and it's soothing. But the primary goal of food, as much as I love it, as chefy and as creative as I am, the purpose of it is primarily to nourish the body and the immune system, not just for recreation, to be used like cigarettes and like crack, like an inanimate object. It's an energy. It's not used for sheer pleasure by itself, right? As a form of escapism and gluttony. So I'm not there with you in your quiet moments. This is just my experience. If it doesn't resonate, please leave it right here. But I'm just saying, I've seen so many generations of suffering. So I can't tell you from your experience, but almost a good majority of the women I came up with morbid. I didn't know the word obese or morbidly obese. The majority of them in the church, and that stood out as a major contradiction. Now, over the years, I'm like, Mom, where you still going here? Is anybody's financial situation changing? Is anybody's health changing? It's like, why the pastor don't have y'all praying and power walking? But don't get me started. Don't get me started, because again, who has a vested interest in you taking corrective action so that you don't need to be dependent on coming to hear a good word? Nothing wrong with inspiration, but the results happen when you're getting into action around what you say is important to you, not just sitting and listening to rhetoric day in, day out. We got to go to 3 services a day. Only the one that's financially enriched are key people. I'm sorry, not sorry. That don't work for me. That's why I'm going back to my Pilates. Yes, I have been sick with COVID. Wow, for 2.5 months, and thank the Father, my sister and I live. Wow, I have regained strength. I'm ready to keep going. Oh my gosh. Ooh, I'm sending you one positive. Thank you for sharing that. Isn't it humbling? It's not sometimes until you can't breathe and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm sitting here in pain. And I'm like, I'm so grateful for all the years of deposit I've made into my health and fitness. And even in an instant, you can be in an accident. I've never had a car accident before. Some of the when you're a young trainer, you sometimes can't relate. I've had some clients that be like, I don't want a young trainer because they don't know what I'm going through in my body. They've never had an injury. So you can't relate, but we wait a lot of times until you can't breathe, until you can't walk up the stairs, until you've got a diagnosis. Now you're forced to take medication before now you have to address certain stuff. And a lot of times that's late in the game. When you consider the second half of your life, I don't know. I don't talk about the stuff that's coming with menopause. You're going to be gagging. You are going to gag. You are going to gag. Other communities are investing in their education around this. We got every reality show talking about every type of superficial, but not dealing with our health. I'm not going to make it bad or wrong because we have options. I'm going to say, and I'll say it again, health is your number one beauty product. The goal is to not need any of that, to not need a girdle, right? To not need makeup. That's the goal, right? We're all at our most beautiful in our natural, healthy state. That's not too little food, and it's not too much. It's a sweet spot. Isn't it, to me, it's absolutely astounding that we're not living naturally in our sweet spot. I think mostly we don't realize how much anxiety, which is cause for socially acceptable slow suicide and socially acceptable medicating in groups. I don't want to be a party pooper. I'm telling you, I ate every Bon-Ton potato chip, Little Debbie's, worked in one of the top restaurants in New York. I get it. However, I would say also with living foods is huge in my toolbox because it is so nutrient dense. It is so much water and fiber in there that eventually I have found that it really helps you to take food off the table. Why? Because when you say, I'm actually full. It's not like with the dense meats and the starch and the fried oil, but you can feel a sense of satiation. And you could know, like, even if I offer you an exquisite live sweet potato pie, you can't eat it because you've had enough. And now you know that I've got enough nutrient. I got fresh greens. I got all these different colors. I got all this nutrients fresh. So the meal is like medicine. So then you can start to really become present to, like, if I'm still eating and I'm not hungry, oh my gosh, I have a fixation around this particular way I have a fixation on food. I'm eating recreation. I'm eating it like a cigarette, if this makes sense. So a big part of what I do in my practice is getting to the bottom of and having an experience. You'll have your own, I'm a catalyst, but having an experience that can shift the way you look at nourishing yourself and finding other ways to nourish yourself other than food. Hint, hint, the garden and your movement practice. You don't have to go get a yoga certification. You don't have to be an athlete. However, it's so therapeutic to feel stress release. Train like an animal, if you will. It's extremely vigorous. You can feel athletic. You feel a sense of accomplishment. You can go have a better bowel elimination through your movement practice. If you have injury, you can take your time and educate yourself on how to rehab it. Physical therapist is not going to come to your house and do it for you. Nobody's going to come and do it for you. Right? But you can learn, you can be open to the process of educating yourself. You can actually have fun. And some of it's going to be uncomfortable, safely uncomfortable, not without compromising your joints, but your movement practice. To me, spirituality is practice. It's so basic. Your movement practice, reconnecting yourself directly, no middleman, to nature by growing and nourishing some plants, something to eat and something pretty to look at. Right? And then also sitting in a radical acceptance of this is how I popped out. You got plenty of time to express and dress it up and play, but this is what I have. And looking deep into your eyes and respecting and protecting yourself, your psyche and your reproductive organs, protecting yourself from those that have demonstrated they will not keep you safe, that are indiscriminate with their reproductive organs, not into taking tests, not into having open discussions, that are irresponsible perhaps with offspring that they have already fathered. So all this from acne and self-care. So somebody asked me once, can hair be a spiritual tool? Of course, almost anything can be a spiritual tool, but definitely perhaps in the sense of, I find getting quiet and sitting with yourself in a living meditation, observing what is coming up for you, what thoughts, listening, just observing, like, wow, you start to catch what kind of inner critic and criticism, what kind of mean talk, mean self-talk, you're talking about other people, mean self-talk to yourself, insults at yourself, like almost like what this person would say about you, but you're talking about yourself in regards to your own hair. If we saw somebody bullying another child, we would think, oh my gosh, that's awful. We need that. It's happening so fast. The programs, the messages, the instructions, we're not even noticing that there's an internal bullying that's like a record player that's looping over and over and over. So that's one of the reasons I come on this channel and I share. I don't ever want to feel that bad again in my life. Ooh, my gosh, right? So that says we want to shore up and make deposits into your 401k of your vitality, your 401k of your mood, your 401k of your longevity, because being in pain is no joke. And a lot of us are also very prone to a lot that's happening because we haven't made deposits into our immune system. We could talk about we've got great genetics, but those genes cannot express themselves in the absence of whole, fresh, unprocessed foods. At least get it home unprocessed so you can see you do the processing, minimize the processing. But start to have a relation with the energy. We say food with the energy that you're consuming that's going to become a part of your brain, your breast, your womb, your mood. It's energy that you're consuming. So I invite you to perhaps slow down and to just check your consumption patterns, right? It's like just a different, just go me, just a little, maybe perhaps you could try it on for size, but don't resonate, leave right here. Perhaps a different way of thinking of I'm eating and I'm dieting. See, it's not necessary. But this, you can relax. You can get so much more done when you're relaxed and not beating up on yourself. And even perhaps projecting a lot of the beating up that we would do on ourselves, beating up on other women and girls for their choices and how they want to wear their hair and how they want to express. Well, a lot of times our own feelings or insecurities or whatever experience we could be projecting onto other people. And is that going to change them, making people feel bad about themselves? Especially if we don't have that permission, we don't have that relationship with them. That's not my goal. That my goal is not to make somebody feel a kind of way. So that's why I say, even though I have my preference and I love natural hair, that's what works for me. I can appreciate other people in their experiences, and perhaps if we are having a good time, and people can see other options with however you are carrying yourself, then girls could pick out for themselves. I saw my cousin Linda with those locks. I said, I don't know what that was. I said, I want that. It was her hair, but also her whole carriage. She was pleasant. She smelled good. So when people, young people see you, they have another option, right? Also, if you're having a good experience in your life, you're having a joyous experience. Who doesn't want to experience some of that? So anyway, I just wanted to come on here to share. If you get value out of this channel, you're welcome to replay these videos, perhaps to keep you good company while you are chopping vegetables, or what I do with my yoga mat, or while you have your movement practice mat out and stretch, right? So you get a 2-for-1. Or perhaps a really good use of this channel is to grab an underwear drawer or some clothing and declutter, and perhaps consider just good company. When I used to go to a lot of meditation centers, and I never forget one of the gurus said, there's certain, I hold on to gems. She said, the company you keep can make a greater or lesser person of you. So simple little nugget. The company, and that can include your own company, the company that you keep can make a greater or a lesser person of you. It is very easy to get high on all of these programs. There's some that I've looked at. However, I also realize, I listen to how I feel if I'm watching certain things. And if I walk away from watching something, I'm inspired. Like you can look at natural hair videos and all of a sudden you find, let me take my headscarf and start playing in my hair. Right? So we are affected by what we're watching, what we're taking in. I have some of my favorite fitness people. Not a lot, maybe one or two. Those are my homies when nobody else is around me to do fitness. Even if we're having a discussion. Sometimes I listen to some of my own videos to keep me company. The company that you keep can make a greater or a lesser person of you. Does your company have some kind of discipline in any area, physically, financially? Are they inspiring? Are they motivated? Are they into action? Are you inspired to get into an action? Or are you inspired to just stay here in the real estate of your mind, but no action is taking place out here? Perhaps something to consider. Coach, you're live today. Oh, you are so welcome. So I'm sitting here vibing because earlier today I was in a lot of pain. So humbled. And so I really sat here and I was talking to myself. I was like, Literally, I was like, how can I leverage this pain? Can I learn something from it? My part of my mom was like, are you kidding me? And I was like, yeah, let me see. Let me put some into practice. Some of this stuff that I've been studying and all these workshops, I was breathing through it. I was listening to what's coming up. I started listening to the fears. I wanted to get up and walk back and forth. And I was like, pain is so humbling. It's so humbling. It's so humbling. It made me think humble. I can think of some family members that are in pain. Pain is no joke. Pain is no joke. So, what can I do to mitigate the pain and manage it and understand that pain comes up in life? Makes me much more sensitive to clients, other people. Also, big that came with me is, understanding that physical pain is one thing, but many of us have emotional and mental pain. Often it doesn't get handled. So, one of the best, perhaps, proactive things we can do for ourselves that we have access to is therapy in the form of your garden, and I'm actually a little bit in pain right now. In your garden, in your movement practice, in your consumption. Those are things that you have access to, even if you have a spending plan, right? You can really clean and declutter your space. You can prep your food. You can put relaxing visuals and nature visuals on your computer. You can nourish yourself with a heating pad or castor oil packs on your womb area. These are things we can do, and I would recommend, or perhaps you could